Hey, Ray, this is Alex Merced, and you're listening to Mastering Financial Exams. As one of the instructors here at Greco Financial Training, we're here to kind of give you these extra bits to help you pass your exams, whether you're taking SIE, Series 7, or more. So we're still on the topic of bonds. Now we're going to be talking about treasuries. Now, when you think about a treasury is a security issued by the federal government, which means a treasury represents debt of the federal government. So if you buy a treasury security, you are a creditor to the U.S. government. They owe you money, and the U.S. government is a debtor. Now the thing is that of all the types of debt that's out there, treasuries are the safest because the government can do things that nobody else can to pay you. They can print money, they can tax, they can borrow even more money. So at the end of the day, if there's anybody you can lend to and be sure that you'll at least get your money back, it is the U.S. government. So generally, the rate of interest on treasuries is known as the risk-free rate of return. And this rate of return is generally what everything else gets benchmarked on. So basically, how the rates of everything else is based on how risky they are relative to the treasury. It's sort of the benchmark. Now, treasuries, unlike other securities, are not issued through sort of traditional investment banking process. So they're not necessarily, you don't get a group of investment banks to form a syndicate, and then they form that syndicate to go out there and sell the security to investors. Instead, every week, the Treasury does an auction, and investment banks known as primary dealers will put in what's called a competitive bid at these auctions to buy the treasuries, and that's what sets the interest rate. Basically, whatever the lowest rate is that allows the auction to clear will be sort of the rate of this treasury issue. Now, the public's allowed to buy them too. They're allowed to put in what's called a non-competitive bid, but the non-competitive bids aren't part of the process of determining what the rate is. They'll get whatever rate the competitive bids determined. Now, there's different types of treasuries. Short-term treasuries are known as T-bills, which are generally less than a year. Medium-term treasuries are known as T-notes, which are 2 to 10 years. And long-term treasuries are called T-bonds, which are generally over 10 years, typically a 30-year T-bond. And then there's a couple special types of treasuries, such as treasury receipts and treasury strips. These are zero-coupon bonds based on treasuries. The difference between the two is that a treasury strip is actually directly issued by the government, while a treasury receipt is issued by a bank who bought a bunch of treasuries and repackaged it as a zero coupon bond. Meaning you buy it at a discount, it pays you no annual interest, and then pays you the full par value at maturity. The last type of treasury is called the TIP, a Treasury Inflation Protected Security. This type of treasury allows your par value, the value of your investment, to grow as inflation grows. So if inflation measured by the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, is up 3%, then the par value of this particular treasury will actually increase by 3%. And instead of paying you your rate of return, your rate of interest on your traditional $1,000 par value, it'll do it now on $1,030. So you'll get, let's say, 10% of $1,030 instead of 10% of $1,000. This is one of the few securities where the par value does change. And the idea is that it protects you from inflation, because inflation is typically a bond's worst enemy, known as purchasing power risk, because the risk that your bonds in the future won't buy you as much money. So TIPS protect you from inflation. Generally, bonds you stay away from when you're worried about inflation. So that's a rundown on treasuries. If you want to learn more, go check out our full courses over there at greco.com. That's Greico.com, where you can sign up for one of our online courses, which are accessible via iPhone and Android app through our Greco SurePass Academy. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys later.